Okay, so in today's video we're going to go ahead and work on the transmission. So I'm going to start out with dropping the pan and all of the fluid, and then we're going to disconnect the 13-pin plug, and we're going to take out the conductor plate. And so to do that, we got to drop the valve body, and I'll bring it up here. So of course we have new gasket, new dipstick cap, missing the red little lock pin because the one they sent was broken, so there's another one on the way. That you certainly don't need it. Here's a new 13-pin connector, new conductor plate that sits on top of the valve body, and I'm sure as many of you know, but for those who don't, the 13-pin connector, that's exactly what it plugs into on the transmission. They have a new filter. This is the TCC PWM solenoid. This should help with my 1 to 2 shifts that jerk. A new crush washer for the transmission pan, and of course we have plenty of Pentacin ATF. I'd say you could use this, or I would also recommend there's a certain Valvoline Max Life that you can use that follows the correct specifications, but I've used both, so a lot of you probably know what this is. This is a crankshaft position sensor. So I'm going to see while I'm down there if I can go ahead and replace that without having to go topside. That's just a $21 little part that if it goes out, your car won't start. So it's one of those things like $21, it's cheap insurance. So anyways, let me go get the pan and get under the car and get started on this. Okay, so for those wondering here, you got a 5mm Allen to get the transmission plug out. Then you'll need a deep well or a 7mm here on an extension to get the 13-pin connector out. And then for the transmission pan bolts, you'll need a T30 Torx. I like to use it in the 1/4-inch drive. And I'm pretty sure that it's also T30 to actually drop the valve body bolts.
All right, so let's go ahead and take out the bolt. Kind of got a resistant to it. It looks a little rough. Probably been a minute since this got changed. So let that drain out and then drop this pan. So I just took off this cover here, and you can see there's the 13-pin plug, and it's pretty wet, so it's probably been leaking. So that's definitely an issue to be avoided. That's why you want to replace that while you're in here. Right there is the reason we need it done. Got the pan dropped. There's still about half full of fluid, so I got it dumped over there, but this thing will keep drifting for a while. So right here, of course, this is your filter. So you should be able to just pull straight down there. And now we can get to, this is the valve body, so let's get to removing the bolts that hold this up and drop this thing down very carefully.
Yeah, I should also mention that you should take out this plug before you drop the valve body. Yeah, I was just thinking, I started doing the valve body, I was like, oh wait, I gotta take that out, because that goes in the conductor plate, and that'll basically hold up the valve body, and then you'll run into a hairy situation.
Okay, so I got the valve body dropped, and it's kind of important to note, this is where a lot of the fluid is, and there's going to be quite a bit in the back. And right here and here, that's where the sensor that I'll show you on the conductor plate, when that goes out, because it's trying to read all that. That's how you get like implausible speeds and things like that, and usually when your conductor plate goes out, that little sensor is actually what is throwing your code.
So I did go ahead and drain this pan, and basically right here is the magnet. There's the actual pan plug, but yeah, this magnet actually pretty good. I mean, there's a little bit of stuff on it, but if you looked at my W211 E55 when I dropped the pan, it was a lot worse. And oh, there's a couple little tiny sparkles, but overall everything's actually looking really good, and I think this transmission still has a lot of life left in it. Okay, so here we have the conductor plate here, the original, bolted on top, so you'll see that's basically what goes in there. So underneath these covers are all your solenoids. This is that sensor I was just talking about inside the transmission. This gets loose. This one here is actually incredibly loose, so it was probably pretty close to failure. This one's a lot stiffer. So it's also important, I have it on a pretty clean cloth here, and you know, you don't want to get any dust or anything like that inside this valve body in these holes right here. So we got the two covers off right here. These here are the brown top solenoids. You can swap these out for blue tops, about $450 I think, to increase your actual fluid pressure. Then you have these shift solenoids, that one, and this one here is the actual TCC PWM that I'll be replacing. So once you take out the little screw and the retainer plate on each one, you can just pull out each of the solenoids. So I have them in order of how they were, and so I'll be swapping out obviously this one here from that. And right now this is pretty much loose now. There's just a few little retention clips that you find, and pop those out of the way, and this thing will come right back up. So it's just a plastic clip in. And so let's get the new one put on. Okay, so got all the solenoids put back in. Also of note, these are magnetic here on the end, so you want to make sure that when you are handling that, you're not spreading all of those essential really micro metal filings around. And so I cleaned everything, and before I put it back on, I didn't really clean the valve body because that's not really required in this. So I've got this ready, it lines up good. And yeah, there's one clip under here, and then there's another clip over here down there that you'll need to release. So that's all ready, and this is ready. So the only other thing is obviously the filter. This month's No Purchase Necessary US only giveaway is live now, and this month it's winner's choice. First choice is a set of expensive, rare, factory W210 E55 floor mats we cleaned in a previous video. Option 2 is $50 US mailed to your door. Option 3 is 3 investment grade 99.99% pure 1-ounce silver Canadian maples made by the Royal Canadian Mint. These investment grade $5 coins are a great thing to have in these crazy times. To enter, all you have to do is leave a comment below with 2 things. 1, tell me which item you would like if you win, and 2, tell me what your favorite Mercedes of all time is. That's it. Easy peasy. Got the plug installed. Okay, so this is obviously the front side of the engine. So you have 4 bolts along here, plus a 5th right here, and then you have 4 bolts right here in the back side. So there's 9 bolts total to drop the valve body. You gotta be a little careful with the shift linkage to make sure you get that set back in correctly, but it ain't too hard. And for this here, for putting these in, I generally find that using your socket to press from the center is the easiest way, and make sure that you maybe put a little ATF on the 2 O-rings so it helps it slide in a little easier, because sometimes that can be fickle. So anyways, next up, I just got to put in the filter that sits right here and get the pan back on, and then top it off, and should be good to go. So I took the old cap off. I was like, oh, it's been leaking. Oh, it's missing the O-ring. Well, when I was down there, I found that O-ring in the bottom of the pan. So I guess it came off and eventually got just shoved down there. So thankfully I'm replacing it. For your transmission, it's the one down there. Don't put ATF in here. This is actually for the engine oil. I don't know why they put a red cap. Like my W210, I have a dipstick, but it's up here. I think I prefer that. Anyways, I don't know about you guys, but I have a favorite funnel. I think every guy in his shop has a favorite funnel. This one's mine because it can reach right there. Super easy to pour stuff into. So it's always been really handy. So we're gonna get this crank position sensor here put in, and I've already removed the throttle body housing elbow that goes up to the mass airflow sensor. So we're gonna go ahead and get down right back in there, and there's a little E-Torx and the wire harness. You can just kind of reach behind here once you get the throttle body adapters out of the way, and we should be able to get to it. Okay, so what I do right here is I have a 1/4-inch dry ratchet, and so you just kind of lay across your engine. Put your hand down there to line it up, and I use this 1/4-inch drive ratchet with about, I don't know, 10 to 12 inches of extensions with a E8 E-Torx, and that should give you enough rates to get down there and get that bolt out. All right, so this is the one I just took out on the left here. This is a VNE 4440, which would be an OEM Mercedes CPS, so possibly an original. And then here is the Bosch replacement, so they're pretty similar, than a little bit different on the plug, but both are pretty high quality. Here's that ratchet I was talking about. And this is the little E-Torx bolt that you'll do right in there like that. So when you're down there feeling around, you have the tab on this side, your bolt's gonna be on the back side. All right, so got her plugged in there, and the bolt installed and everything. It's really hard to show you. There's plenty of videos on YouTube to show you how to do that. But anyways, got the new Bosch installed. So now basically get the throttle body elbow and mass airflow and get everything back together. And this part is done. All right, so got everything back together, and went out and tested it. And I did make some modifications to the MAF and the elbow, where I moved those 2 little curved vanes in there. And so here's a little listen on how it sounds with those removed. Initial impressions is it definitely seems to have a little bit more throttle response, possibly made a little bit more linear as far as throughout the power band, but I'll drive it more tomorrow and see, and go from there, because as you can see, it's dark out right now, so that's good to go. So next up, I want to show you the front suspension components that I replaced. So for this first round, these are the 6 pieces I replaced. All right, so yeah, right there, the front lower control arm, and I did the sway bar end links up to the strut there, and then we also did the rear lower control arm. Eventually we'll do tie rod ends and things like that. So the ball joints on that right there and this one right here were the really the worst offenders, and they actually had some visible slop. I can actually move them around extremely easily. So now that those have been swapped out, the front end is so much tighter and a lot better to drive. So that's that. And yes, I have a very healthy lip here, so definitely in need of some new brakes, so that's coming up. Probably going to do some Bill Stein dampers, and got several upgrades still left to do, but a little bit at a time.